get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
Do you, and I genuinely don't know if this is a thing or not, but do you keep stats on the demographic of people that come through? I don't know how anonymous it is, or you know, because I'm guessing to have that open door policy, people might not want to share certain elements. But do you capture any of that?
No.
There's a reason why I'm asking. So
Yeah, no. I get. It's again, it's something that as a charity, one of the first things that we wanted to kind of really put out there is the fact that you have the right to be anonymous when you come to an Andy's Man Club. You have the right to. What we saw was that the more that we ask of people, the more blocks we put in place.
You don't want the barriers. Yeah,
absolutely, we don't want the barriers in place. So the only thing that the groups will report back to us in terms of from a head office, we don't call it head office, but you know that everyone gets that terminology, is that the total number of people that attended,
right,
the total number of men that attended an Andy's Man Club for the very first time. So obviously, if you go from one to another, that you're not there for the first time, you're just at that group for the first time. So we track new people in terms of that. And then the only other thing that we kind of track is any issues. So from a safeguarding point of view, the guys at each group will have to complete a form at the end of every session. And all it does is the form basically says how many people turned up, how many facilitators did we have, how many new guys turned up, and were there any issues that we need to follow up on with regards to safeguarding. So from a representative point of view, I will, on a Monday night after the group's finished, I will go home and log on and see all the forms coming in real time and anything that we need to deal with. We also have 2 safeguarding leads that work within our office who are available. They're both women. They're both incredible women as well at that, and they will be their mobile numbers are readily available to all the facilitators. So if there's something that happens which is a safeguarding issue there and then that needs dealing with, because as representatives we're all at Andy's Man Clubs on a Monday, so I can't answer my phone at an Andy's Man Club for one of my other clubs during that club. So we have that safeguarding lead, or 2 safeguarding leads that are active, so that things can get reported if it needs to be reported from an urgency basis. So
brilliant.
So back to your question in terms of a demographic, we don't keep stats around that, and it's a really important topic to talk about in terms of making sure that we are inclusive as possible and we are available for any man over the age of 18, because we genuinely are. But I appreciate that we've also got to be, I suppose, really mindful that we're attracting every aspect of society as well, so that's reflective of where our clubs are. So can we do more on that? Yes, absolutely. Is it something that is a very common topic? Is it something that we're working hard on? Yeah, definitely. What we don't want it to be is tokenism.
No, absolutely.
The one thing that I am confident in, having spoken to people from a huge number of different backgrounds, and that's not just in terms of ethnicity or anything, that's across the whole kind of spectrum about their experience when they turn up for Andy's Man Club. And the one thing that I am confident on is no matter which club you go to, no matter what your race, your sexuality, if you're neurodivergent or anything along those lines, you'll be treated exactly the same as everybody else. You'll be welcomed, and in the nicest possible way. I always say that we don't care. We just care that you're there.
Yeah.
And we will listen to your issues, and your issues are your issues, sort of thing.
I think it's probably worth adding, if I can, that certainly when I started going, I was surprised, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by the complete range of people that was there. No, the complete range of demographics. I mean, literally 18 to pensionable age people were there, and obviously you were all there with a common goal, which was to engage with each other and actually talk on a different level. And that was, I was pleasantly surprised by.
So the reason for my question was I had seen a report, because people love publishing reports on these things, and there were 4 areas of community. So LGBTQ plus, deaf people, disabled people, and people who had experience of the criminal justice system, so ex-offender, basically. So they were the 4 groups that have been identified as having really poor access to support. So I just wondered, if they're getting missed in a formal way, are they more likely to get picked up by the third sector? Is that? I'm guessing that's a yes. I'm guessing that from what you've said, because there's probably less barriers. I think formally, it is a lot harder for those people to access the formal route. It's going to be easier to know that they can go somewhere where they're going to be accepted, and they can stay as long as they like without a GP saying, well, you've got, is it now 7 minutes you have to discuss one issue or 2 issues or whatever. I don't even know what it is anymore. So it sounds like that, that is a success story.
I think just kind of picking up on those sort of pillars. So from a sexuality point of view, from an identity point of view, first of all, we will our charity is open to any man or anyone identifying as a man over the age of 18. So I suppose we're available and inclusive in that way. And I know that there is a number of individuals that fall into those categories. I don't like saying categories, but I can't think of a better term to put right now. But you get where I'm coming from in terms of that. And again, from their experience point of view, they're treated no differently to anybody else, and are supported in exactly the same way. From a deaf person instance, it's probably an area that we would struggle with. If I'm 100% honest, if as far as I'm aware, for someone that would be, and again, my terminology might be terrible, so again, I apologize, but someone that was sort of profoundly deaf in terms of no speech, no hearing, and required sign language, then I would imagine that I'm not aware of any that attend the group. Now that might just be a case of that I'm not aware, but I would imagine at that point they would probably need a chaperone for somebody to sign for them. Because unless there's somebody within that group that can sign, then there would be a natural struggle there, because obviously all of our groups are held verbally with regards to that. I can't. So what was the other 2 pillars? So just so that I can pick them.
So ex-offenders, people have been
ex-offenders. So we see we see a large number of ex-offenders that use our groups, and they are more than welcome to do that. Interestingly, we have a guideline. I don't like calling them rules, but we have a guideline in terms of topics that can be discussed, or on topics that can't be discussed. So until Monday just gone, it was always 3 topics. So we didn't talk about medication because we're a peer support group. No one's acting on a professional basis. So telling someone what they should or shouldn't be doing regarding antidepressants is particularly dangerous. And we don't talk about religion or politics, because the conversations that people can find challenging, people can generally have strong points of view on that, and they can kind of hijack the conversation quite quickly. In saying that, people are free to talk about religion in the way that their lives are involved in that. So if somebody says, one of our questions is, what's your positive from your week? And someone said, oh, I went to church yesterday, and the sermon that the priest gave was really inspiring, and it was a really highlight. They're more than welcome to do that. What we're not doing is then getting onto a conversation about whether or not we should or shouldn't have religion in our lives. And then just recently we've introduced a new rule guideline, shall we say, a new topic, if you like. So that was introduced on Monday, and that was criminal activity. So that's past, present. And again, in the same way that talking about religion, you can talk about religion in the way that it impacts your life and the way that it involves, but you're not going into detail. It's exactly the same now with the criminal activity. So you're not allowed to talk about details of any crimes. You're not allowed to talk about anything that if you're currently going through in terms of court cases and all those kind of stuff. You can talk about how you feel about them. So if it's a case of I'm going through court at the moment, or I'm under investigation, or I've just come out of prison and all this kind of stuff, you can talk about how you feel about that, but you just can't go into that detail, because I think we've seen certainly this year an increasing number of safeguarding issues because of the discussion of the detail of discussion that's caused people real challenges around that. So yeah, ex-offenders are really welcome. I know a number of prisons around the UK will give out Andy's Man Club leaflets, business cards to people when they do get released, to guys when they do get released. They're more than welcome. They're absolutely 100% free to join our and attend our groups.
And the fourth area was disability.
Yeah, again, all of our venues have disability access. So if somebody is, I know again, there's obviously a wide range of disabilities that are covered within that. Everybody, as long as you're over 18, and it's going to be effective for you, then you are more than welcome to join. So yeah, we see large number of people that would be either registered disabled or struggle with certain disabilities, and they're absolutely welcome. So yeah, so I'd say out of those four things, probably the one area that we probably need to maybe look at, or how we do, or whether or not there's just another group that does it better than we do, and that's what we're keen on in terms of signposting as well, would be for somebody that was deaf and had to sign, really. When
we spoke about it, Russell, our industry, how would you describe our industry? I'm not going to say it. You used a really big word actually the other day as well. I was quite impressed with your grasp of the English language.
Did it have more than 3 syllables?
No.
So
I think it had 4.
I mean, listen, it's a predominantly male industry. There's no question about that. You know, like most industries, I suspect, it is changing. There's no question it's changing, and there is a lot of attention on those the other demographics that are sort of that form part of this industry, but there's still a huge number. It's dominated by male. I mean, there's no question about it. That is changing, and I think it is.
Attitude-wise, how would you describe it?
I think the attitude is, how could we put it? It's still in its infancy. So the attitude is starting to change, but it's not gone anywhere near changing enough. And I think certainly when it comes to mental health, I don't think it's made anywhere near the amount of progress we would like to have seen, or certainly that you'd like to see that we've seen in coverage, of national coverage. I don't get the feeling. I might be wrong. I mean, I'm only going on what I can see and what I've seen, but I think there's a lot of growth to go in terms of their attitude towards mental health and being aware of it.
I do think it has changed. I think post-COVID it changed. I think that was a bit of an eye-opener for people, recognizing that that created a different struggle for people, and that I think that has brought a lot of things to the surface. But honestly, I really feel, even from coming back and out and this, coming back to no more lockdowns and no more wearing masks and all of that, I think everyone's slipped back. I really do. I think I still hear people say things like, well, he needs to grow a pair. Right. I mean, and we haven't lost those phrases. So how do we challenge that? How should we challenge that?
I mean, this is just my own personal opinion. I mean, things like that have been ingrained in our language for decades and decades and decades, and it would be very difficult. I mean, listen, I was listening to the ladies commentating on the football, right? The women's football match. Even the lady commentators were struggling not to use the word man marking, right? So, you know, and no player marking, right? And so we've grown up with decades and decades and decades of this sort of language, and to turn it off instantly, or even over the course of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I think it's difficult, right? And because it's so ingrained in people's speech.
We've got to do it. We've got to start.
Of course we have. Of course we have. And I think they are starting. But it's and we're in that process.
So next time you hear somebody say it, what would you say?
I'd agree. It was terrible man marking. No, I mean, I would. You know, obviously, what you try and do is affect your speech, and you lead by example, and that's what I've always felt. If you lead by example, and you're confident in using the right language yourself, that others will pick up on that. And where you're able to, you obviously identify that or pick it up and say, look, I'd probably use that. You know.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up